What up? What up? What up, y'all? We got special guests, Tim Big H Kornegay. I've been promising you guys for a few days he would be here with us to talk about voting and politics. I was just having a little short conversation with him about at what point do some of these so-called generals get away from tunnel vision and just talking about gang shit all day, every day. And that's not what we're here to talk about today. As I told you guys a long time ago, I was trying my best to get away from some of that. We can still do history, we can still do whatever it is dealing with gangs, but that's just not my focus, and that's not our focus today. So right now, I'm gonna bring on Big H to holler at y'all. What up, Big H?
Yeah, what up, Kev? Thanks for bringing me back on, bro. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's actually been too long. That's
Yeah.
my fault. But the great thing about having you and just being friends and having a rapport with you is you. Well, actually, a lot of guys that come on this platform, we defy the stereotypical black ex-gang member or ex-inmate because you guys, particularly yourself, bring a admiration about yourself because you're educated. You don't speak ignorantly, and you're not just lost. And so that's what I like about even being able to talk to you over the phone or in person and right here live today, man. So I want to give you props on that, man.
I appreciate it, bro.
Can you tell us what your educational background is like?
Uh, well, from South Central, I'm still trying to figure out where South LA is, even though individuals regularly use that term. I think it's to like politicize or whitewash the trauma that's occurred in the areas that we come from and to invite gentrification. But at the end of the day, we know I'm from South Central, grew up in a mile away from USC, never envisioned that I had what it took to get to college. So, of course, I followed the path of, hit the block, did what I could do. But despite the fact that I was an individual who was in the streets, participating in street activity, I was never a person who didn't think through behaviors. So I graduated from elementary school, graduated from high school, participated in all the schooling that was possible during the course of my journey through them institutions, camp, YA, prison, emphasis on prison because I did a total of 30 years in prison. I'm not one of them dudes that went to prison and got smart. I was smart when I went to prison. What I did when I got to prison is I got focused and I realized that knowledge without direction is dangerous. That the things that we incorporate, the books that we read, they aren't for like resuscitation just to repeat the information. An individual has to be able to absorb that information and interpret it and own it to give it a degree of application. So formal education, let's say a year or so of college, messing around in them institutions, but never completing the credits necessary to get what's considered to be an official degree. However, my knowledge and ability to communicate, my understanding of how the world works, how things work, my depth of spirituality gives me an educational level that exceeds or is equal to anybody that has a PhD. And my conversation puts me across the table with individuals who have them, and it's equality. You cannot talk above me, and I will not talk you down. Just that we have an understanding of each other. So, is that a cool description of like educational?
Yes, sir. So when you was hitting the block and you was in them streets, so we talking about a long time ago.
Yeah.
Where did you stand with the voting?
I was like everybody else. I was like all the rest of the hard heads. I didn't understand what it was. I didn't understand how it worked. And it was something that I didn't gravitate towards. Just thinking back in retrospect, because I had no idea that politics and that whole civic engagement process affects everything in the communities we come from the invisible taxes we spend when we go to the grocery store, to where stop signs are, speed bumps, social programs, who get relief, who doesn't get relief, who the police are, who the mayor is, what the city council structure is, what's the board of supervisors. None of that stuff is information that was readily available, because of the era that I grew up in was post Black Panthers, when that education was readily available. And folks like myself, we were gravitating toward, that can't nobody tell me what to do lifestyle. I'm 12, 11, maybe even 10, thinking that I'm an adult and I can make adult decisions. And those adult decisions ended up traumatizing communities and causing more harm than it was ever good.
So now we get to doing prison time.
Yeah.
Maybe the middle of your sentence or toward the end of your sentence. How do you feel about voting at that point?
Well, what I came to realize during my first stint, when I did the first 8 years, and I started to, involve myself in some of that prison behavior, I started realizing that the thing that folks call prison politics, that prison politics were like that life and death space, that if an individual didn't know how to have a command of his politics, you can easily get yourself killed. So I felt like, I was intellectually capable of navigating that prison politic space. So I started studying like political philosophies, these books and folks that are readily quoted by individuals who may have read them but never absorbed the internal dynamics of how that stuff works. And it was a quick realization that individuals in the streets with guns and bullets ain't gangsters. That we're extensions of something that was intended to be and not in our best interest. That the politicians were the ones controlling the environment we live in. That when an individual sits in front of somebody and is prosecuted for a crime, you have the administration of the DA's office, which is politics. The DA, the head DA, is an elected official. You have a judge that's going to pronounce sentencing. The judge, 9 times out of 10, is an elected official. And here you are across the table, not understanding the laws that you have violated, what the potential consequences are. And you in there wondering, like, wow, how did I get myself in this situation? I think I'm smarter than like the position I'm in. But truth be told, because a lot of us didn't have the understanding of how this stuff works, we compromise any degree of living that we could ever do, because we always put ourselves in front of like the social dynamics of what politics are, and we were impacted and victims of it, whether we like to believe it or not. So in reading that, after the first 8, I was, and I have no shame in saying it, and folks have heard it before, that a fool with knowledge is dangerous. I was a damn fool with a whole bunch of knowledge, and I was extremely dangerous.
So I'm sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was extremely dangerous in there. And when I got out, because of the things that I knew, because of the understanding that I had was so different than most, it allowed me to influence things in a manner that should not have been influenced like that. And it's like that indirect influence that to engage in a behavior that motivates others to engage in the same kind of behavior, and that it becomes repetition and circuitous until you get to the point where you look around and everybody is acting in the same manner that you are. And it's an environment that's full of self-hate, anger, and the anger is extended in a manner that wreaks havoc on communities that we come from and harms, not only ourselves, our families, and obviously at this point, our future, because I don't know if most folks looked around, but there's not that many black people in LA. And it is my belief, in my opinion, that the things that we have done are a contributing factor to the fact that our race is suffering from an extinguishing that's internal and external. We kill each other and they continue to kill us, and that's making our numbers shrink. We are the minority in LA right now. 9% of the population.
Absolutely. I agree with that statement 100%. Not a lot of people talk about that. I've spoke on it and didn't get a friendly reaction, but it's just the truth as far as I'm concerned.
It's the truth. Here's the trick. See, back in the day, we didn't realize that our numbers were what they were because we all lived in the same proximity to each other. So the only time we really saw people that weren't black or brown is when we went outside our communities to do stuff, or we was in jail or in court or something. Then getting arrested. Then we already were set up to have those encounters with white folks. But once it became safe for others to move in our community and to refurbish those houses that we no longer had emotional attachments to, and we started looking around and like, oh my goodness, there's a whole bunch of this, there's a whole bunch of that, there's a whole bunch of this. Ain't none of, like, everybody moved out, everybody did this. And the truth is, some people moved out, but it's not, everybody didn't move out. It's just other folks moved in and demonstrated to us that it ain't that many of y'all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So look, you being a dangerous man in prison, your first encounter with politics was prison politics.
Prison politics, yeah.
All right. So you caught a case which had to be at least 94 or after a three-strike.
That's the second time. I was like in the first 10 days of the 3 strikes law. I had red and blue lights swirling in my rearview mirror, and I was on my way back.
Yeah, I was too. So now you catch a 3-strike case. Did that open your eyes up to politics or?
No, I mean, I already knew.
Okay.
And, I already knew that I took the bait again. I thought I was smarter than the system because, of course, when you have an ego, when you're walking around with certain mechanisms controlling your thought process, the best way I could put it, and I can never say this enough, and it's extremely humorous, but it's the truth. And it's my truth until I got the wherewithal to change things. And I probably said this the last time I was on here. I snuck off the porch at an extremely early age. But when I struck off the porch, like so many of us, those guiding voices that sit on our shoulders, we like to think that it's a devil and an angel on our shoulder, our conscious controlling our decision-making system. But the thing about me is once I snuck off the porch, something in my environment, now hear this now, kidnapped my angel and replaced it with an idiot. So my decision-making matrix was based on information from an idiot and the devil. So I could not make a good decision. All my decisions were not in my best interest, but I wasn't aware of that because I was functioning like in a chained mindset where, my world existed, in what I could see. I wasn't willing to see everything else that existed in the world around me. So when I caught my case, everybody in, that phase didn't know how the 3 strikes law would be applied. So I figured, I had no concept that it would be retroactive. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, the most they could give me is 16, 2, and 3 for receiving stolen property. Mm-hmm. But lo and behold, after a year or so in the county jail and investigation, what I realized through court documentation was no, they couldn't give me 16, 2, and 3. I was not a 3 striker. I was a 2nd striker, and whatever I got would be doubled and done at 80%.
Mm-hmm.
So my cases that were supposed to be 16, 2 and 3 became 32 months, 4 years, and 6 years at 80%. After the judge pronounced sentence, I ended up with 27 years and 8 months at 80%. So I had a life sentence without having a life sentence.
Right.
So, you know, thrown back in there, still housed with the energy, the influence, some of the anger, some of the, you know, hatred from when I left in that 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I was, you know, thrown right back in full force. So for some years, I still did the politics. I still played the game. You know, I still manipulated. I still hustled. I did all that because that's what I do. You know, you lock me up, but you're not going to put me in prison. I'm going to still do my thing. And then at some point in time, you know how I go when you do time, like, okay, I've been here long enough now. I think it's time for me to like get free. Mm-hmm. But there was no freedom at that point. I really had like 12 to 15 years left. Mm-hmm. So the only alternative I had was to get free in prison. And the only way that I could do that really was to free myself of me. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So for anybody watching this, if y'all know me, y'all heard this before. After that period of time, I just woke up one day and I encountered the sucker in the mirror that kept getting me in trouble all my life.
Self accountability is big.
That part right there. Like you are the individual that's been controlling my life all these years. I can't do it no more. I can't let you keep getting me in these situations. I mean, I got all this gray hair. I'm getting old. I got some kids. I need to spend some time with my family. I don't even know who my family is, and my family doesn't know me because I've been hiding from them because of my behavior, because I didn't want any of the ramifications of who I was to be visited on them. And the consequence of that was I never really got to know them. So at that moment, you know, I just start doing the work, start having the understanding. And it's like this super weird thing took place all my life from, I don't know, kindergarten on. I've been hearing that phrase, you too smart to be that damn stupid. You know, parents, you know how I go. How did you get yourself into that? You are too damn smart to be that stupid. So I found myself in 2002 having got run out of a prison for prison politics and being accused of causing or instigating a work stoppage and a sit down and forcing the warden to come talk to individuals. And of course, I had nothing to do with it. But since I was the only individual like in that particular prison that they felt had the wherewithal to direct something like that, they kicked me out of prison. Out of Tehachapi in semi-high desert. Got the high desert. I was there a little while. Immediately, the tech team or the goon squad came, took all my property, locked me up, kept me locked up for about a week, didn't put me back in the cage, but they kept my property. So like a month goes by, I'm writing 602s about my property. So I finally get a call to the program, and it's the goon squad captain. And he's like, Mr. Kornegay, I want to give you an indeterminate shoe because I know who you are. You dangerous. You've been this way. I can't trust you being here. I don't know how you got here, but he was like, I read all this stuff you read, all the stuff you write, and this what threw me off guard. He was like, man, you are too smart to be this damn stupid. You don't supposed to be in prison. And this is a big old white boy. Your people need you out there. You need to be out. You need to be fighting for your people. You don't need to be in here with this stuff. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you a chance. I'm not going to lock you up. I'm not going to validate you as a BGF. and getting your indeterminate sentence. And before I could say like, man, I ain't even like, yeah, I know you ain't no BZF, but if I want you to be one, I can lock you up indeterminately as one and make you do the rest of the time in your home. But I'm not going to do it. But if this is how you think, if this is who you really are, then you need to look in the mirror and start being that person. And that was like a linchpin to like everything that I had already been thinking anyway. So it was like, if this is the person who is perceived as my, this the cat and mouse game. This is one of my worst enemies in the place. These are the people that I'm trying to maneuver around. I'm trying to control. I'm politicking with the homies. I'm politicking with, administration. I'm doing all this stuff. And for somebody that knows what I'm up to and can like undermine all that to say, hey, here's an opportunity, make the best with it. I'm like, okay, I'm now I'm going to make the best with it because it's in my best interest. And my best interest is to, like, when I'm having conversations with individuals, like, give them the option to make decisions, not be manipulative in the course of like conversation, and get individuals to agree with the way I think things should be, and them move like it was their decision when I know all the time it was really mine. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That prison politician that everybody comes out here and hates. That the big homie with the prison politics. Don't mess with him. He a manipulator. He this, he that. So of course at a period of time, I was all that, admittedly.
Mm-hmm.
So all I had to do was just flip the switch and give individuals the key to the information. Like, here's the information. This is how this works. This is why this is. This is why I've been the way I've been. If you trusted me being that person when I wasn't right, you can trust me now being this person when I'm never going to tell you anything wrong. I'm not going to compromise you. I'm not going to put you in a situation where you can get yourself hurt. It's my job now to do what I can to help you with the tools that's going to save your damn life in this wicked environment we're in. Now, of course, individuals weren't really accepting of me and my change initially. They was like, it's a plan right here. This is not real. We don't even know who this dude is. We can't know. We're not accepting this. But as time went by and my ability to like diffuse situations, to give individuals information, to place myself in between like different conflicts that could result in major conflicts and dispel them, I just became the voice of reason. And my mission, and I start building the mission that I didn't really have to change. I could still be the individual that had to understand how politics work, but I'm gonna go to the street and I'm gonna take this understanding and I'm gonna move around in spaces where the real politics are hurting my people. I'm going to put myself where like change exists, and I'm gonna represent all those individuals I left behind who, basically, in my opinion, individuals let me come home. I don't know how strange that sounds, but of course, Kev, individuals that's like me that have done what I've done, folks don't say, you can't just go say, hey, I don't want to play no more. And they be like, yeah, cool, you don't got to play. We understand that. It's usually like, yeah, you ain't got to play no more, but we're going to pop you up real good. And if you survive, you can go hang out on one of those program yards or one of them sensitive needs yards till you go home. But you ain't going to be around us after you being who you been. Mm-hmm. But individuals accepted my change. And not only did they accept my change, they promoted it. They was like, man, we really appreciate the fact that like you getting at the homies like this, and it's not just you getting at the Crip homies, you getting at the Damu homies. I mean, you really like having these relationships with these youngsters up in here, and it stops a whole lot of foolishness from taking place. That's some cool shit. So when you get out, you know how it is. Everybody talks that stuff in there, and then you get free, and you've been out 2 weeks and you hitting licks. Mm-hmm. You back to your stuff, you collar popping. You're like, yeah, I'm out here now with this stuff. From the moment I've got out for my last 10 years in prison, I was the individual I am now. From the moment I got out, I have been the same individual. I have not straddled the fence one time. I've been involved in community activism since day one. Some of the most important legislation that has occurred, not only like in the city, in the county, but also in the state. I have been across the table with some decision makers who have actually asked my opinion about stuff. You see this poster behind me. This is a Prop 47 poster.
And what's Prop 47?
Prop 47 is when politicians, right, and people decided together. There was a little fight, but the people voted once the ballot initiative was put together and got on the ballot, right? People voted that six things that were previously considered felonies, receiving stolen property, writing bad checks, selling drugs, possessions of drugs, things like that, would no longer be felonies. They will be reduced to misdemeanor. That's what voting does. People voted that, changed the law, released a lot of our folks early, gave a lot of our folks a chance to come home, and keeps a lot of our folks from going back to jail. It raised the felony, like the monetary number or the price. So prior to Prop 47, $450, any crime that caused damage or the price of was over $450 was a felony. That's why you had a lot of youngsters that was doing stupid stuff that ended up in jail, that wound up in prison because of that right there. And that was as a result of some 94 legislation. Prop 47 changed all that. If individuals do not vote, there is no Prop 47. Folks do just not get it into the kindness of their hearts and say, hey, we want to do the right thing. We want to engage in criminal justice reform and change the system. The system changes when our voices are heard and we become active and say, we aren't going to accept this shit anymore. This has to change. Either you gonna change it or we gonna change it. So when I got free, I was doing like, working Prop 47, like clinics, helping individuals have an understanding of how to get their records expunged and things like that. In doing that, found myself like involved organizationally in the coalition space, where this is the work that folks do. There was Prop 55, Prop 56, Prop 57. One was a $2 tax on cigarettes. One was like the reformation of some funding that was for schools. And then there was Prop 57. And what Prop 57 was, it was criminal justice reform. That the number one component of Prop 57 is it took away the arbitrary decision-making tool for the DA to charge our people as early as 14 years old as an adult and send them to prison. Now, everybody remembers like, wow, 15, you going to prison, 16, you going to prison. Just eliminated the fitness hearing. It's part of that 1994 crime bill, right? It eliminated the fitness hearing, and it just gave the prosecutor the sole discretion, just took the judge out the picture, and whether they can charge our youngsters as adults and send them to prison. So Prop 47 was like a ballot initiative that we were trying to pass in a series of things in 2016. So I'm on staff at this organization. This courageous individual at the organization asked me that I want to do some work on 57. So the question was, do you want to do some canvassing with the door knocking and talking to people and explaining what stuff is, trying to get them to vote? And I immediately shook that off and was like, not a chance. I have not been a good guy that long. I ain't knocking on nobody's door asking them nothing, because they might remember who I am, and that's going to be all bad. I'm not doing myself like that. like, well, what about like phone banking? It's it's when you get a group of individuals in the room, give them some telephones or some computers and phone lists, and have them calling folks, and you get them annoying calls like, "Hey, my name is. Can I tell you about this?" Well, a lot of those phone calls come from people who are put together by me. I love it. Y'all might think it's annoying, but it changes lives. Now, at 57, I was given the opportunity to put together a team to do voter education and voter engagement for Prop 57. I ended up with access to a budget and the opportunity to hire 35 people for 12 weeks to be on the phone. I haven't been out that long, but you know what I mean? Just the ability to communicate and put myself in situations, it gave me that opportunity. But
so can you explain to us how you get something on a ballot to even vote for?
Well, it all starts with conversation. Like a group of people gets in the room and says, this law right here is unfair. Let's engage our legislators, the state assembly, Congress, Senate. Let's address them and say, hey, we want this law changed. And they say, no. Go back to the room like, okay, we want to get this law changed. We want to get this on the ballot. What do we need to do? The changes get written out. Then it gets certified by, like, say, the Secretary of State. They give it a title and a number and say, you need 500,000 signatures. You need 750,000 signatures to get this on the ballot. And that's when you see individuals in front of the grocery store, the barbershop, the gas station, when they're taking those signatures, what that is trying to get something like on the ballot to be voted on. So
okay, so
yeah.
Tell me if I'm interpreting this right. kevmacvideos subscribers, we all can sit here and discuss some laws that we don't like.
Yeah.
Maybe they need to be tweaked.
Yeah.
And we can go through the steps you just described and get these signatures to have this law changed. So now it's on the ballot.
Yeah.
So how does it pass? Through voting, right?
Through voting.
So what do you think about the people that say voting don't matter? Voting changes nothing after you get a petition and get it on the ballot.
What I say is this. I understand that, and the reason why I understand that is because folks who don't want you to vote have convinced you that your vote doesn't matter. But what your viewers need to understand, what our people understand, is whether you vote or not, it matters. If you vote for the things that are important to you, they change the way your community works in your best interest. If you don't vote, it changes the way things work in your community that are not in your interest. The current federal government, the individual who is currently the head of our federal government, I won't say his name, everybody knows who he is. He is in that position, not because an enormous amount of people voted. He's in that position because an enormous amount of people didn't vote. Because we stayed at home. Because we bought into the narrative that voting doesn't work. Now that's the higher level, but what we need to understand as folks is it's the local level voting that is just as important. It's the school board voting that's important. It's the superintendent of LAUSD that's important. It's the judgeships that individuals should be voting on that's important. Some of us don't even realize that the DA, the head DA in LA, is a position that has to be voted on. In 2016, when working on these ballot initiatives, the current DA was up for re-election. This current DA ran unopposed, did not have a challenger, did not need a single vote to keep the position. Mind you, this is the same person who has resided over 600 officer-involved shootings under the current administration and has not prosecuted a single one. But we will line up and talk shit about this ain't cool, this person needs to be gone. But when the time comes, you can take your you-know-what to a polling place, but you don't really have to do now because of COVID-19. We're all on mail-in. When the mail-in time comes, if you are unsatisfied with the behavior of the current DA, you change that by checking the box saying we don't want you to have that job no more because you're not operating in our best interest. If you don't like what the mayor does, the mayor works for you. That is a situation and a position that has to be voted on. If you don't like the city council, it's the same thing. That's all it takes. If you don't like the board of supervisors, it's the same thing. But here's the shocking thing, and I hope that the folks who are listening is really paying attention. Some of these elections are won by numbers lower than the folks that you have in your contact list.
Bro, let me stop you. I don't mean to interrupt, but I just gotta tell you, this is what I've been trying to tell my subscribers the last few weeks. And I found this out officially like 2004 when Big U came on.
Yeah.
It don't take a lot of votes to win city council seat.
No.
And to your point about, I think her name is Jackie Lacey. That's the district attorney, right?
Yes.
Okay. To your point is some of these people, they go unchallenged because of people like some of the people I've been conversating with that say voting don't count. So nobody's going to step up and go against her because they think voting don't count.
Voting count.
So how can you get in position to better your people or yourself or even the law, period, if you don't step up and try to fill those positions?
I mean, this is it. I mean, you start the general conversation to get people talking about it. I mean, to give it to put it in a historical context. We didn't get the right to vote until the 60s. Now think about that. From the time that our folks were transported over here against their will, and this country was built on the blood, sweat, and tears and bones of slaves, we did not get full rights to participate in the political process in this country until the 60s. And the voter rights bill. And to get that, individual had to be beat with water hose, billy clubs, lynched, attacked by dogs, our forefathers, ancestors, any way you want to look at it, fought for us to get the right to vote. And it is such a disservice. It is so disrespectful that at this point, when we can look at the environment that we live in and want change to happen, that we do not participate in change with just that simple, you know what I mean? Stroke of the pen. You can't have your job anymore. You know what I mean? How can, if it wasn't important, why do they keep it from us so much? Why is there almost 50,000 individuals right now on parole who can't vote? Your right to vote is restricted while you're on parole. While you're on probation, you can vote. I've had arguments with individuals doing voter registration where it's been explained to me, well, I can't vote because I'm on probation. And I'm saying, yes, you can. And they said, no, I can't, because you lose your right to vote once you've been convicted of a felony. That is not true. Well, the only individuals in California who can't vote is if you aren't a naturalized citizen, if you're on parole, and if you're in the county jail and you've been convicted of a felony and you on your way to prison. If you are in the county jail and you have not been convicted of a felony that would send you to prison, you can vote in the county jail.
Well, this is how I look at this. Some of the same people that hit me up through my email or on Instagram or Twitter, some of the not the majority, but some of the people in my comment section here, I believe these people are distractors, or these people are so uneducated that they just hear something, believe it's true, and run with it. Because I've been told my whole life exactly that a felon can't vote. Somebody on probation can't vote.
Yeah.
What happened with me, I'm going to just share my experience with you. I got out in 97, and I believe like in 98, I went to Ralph's on Crenshaw and Slauson, and there was somebody out front asking to help register me to vote. So I tell him, no, leave me alone, no. And he's like, let me ask you why, black man. I'm like, because I can't vote. He said, why can't you vote? I said, I'm on parole. He said, well, when do you get off parole? I said, probably 3 years. And he tells me, well, you can vote then. So like 3 years later, maybe two, 3 years later, I have the same incident happen to me. And they tell me that I can vote. And I'm thinking, that's some bullshit, because I've been told all my life that we can't vote. I've been on probation my whole adult life. And so I went and signed the papers and got educated on this, and God be damned, just what you said, we could vote. Yeah. And I've been telling my homeboys and my homegirls and people that reach out to me ever since. So over 20 years, I've been telling them that we can vote. And so again, I'm gonna just reiterate, I believe these are distractors, man, or uneducated people that want to pretend they smart. And so they regurgitate something that's false to our people.
This what, to that I'll say this, and I'm repeating it. You cannot be bigger than or better than what you know. You can only operate on the information that you have. So if you're being fed bad information, you can only reiterate bad information. It's up to us to educate our folks on not only the importance of it, but the power in it. There is power in voting, and if you don't believe it, all humility aside, I'm a brag. There is funding available for support services for homeless folks and for what they're referring to as justice system impacted individuals, and everybody knows what that is. Well, one of these initiatives is called, it was JJJ and HHH. HHH was a $1.2 billion bond issue for support services, affordable housing to address homelessness. In 2016, once again, room full of folks making thousands of calls a day, helped turn out individuals and get them to go vote on JJJ and HHA, which created a bond fund, right? $1.2 billion to address the homeless crisis that's going on. What the politicians have done with that is a different thing. But that is something that was passed through voting. Now that's a lot. Come 2017, once again, our local government, the county of LA, is looking for money to deal with affordable housing, homelessness, houselessness, things like that. They had a Measure H. There's a ballot initiative called Measure H. And what Measure H would do, if passed, is create $355 million a year for 10 years to address support services for vets, system impacted folks, single moms, individuals that's struggling. It took It took 521,000 plus votes for it to pass. This is in the county of LA that has millions of registered voters and millions of individuals who are not registered to vote. Think about that. 521,000 votes.
Out of how many Californians?
No, this is local. This is county.
Oh, county.
This is LA County. There's 10, 11 million people in LA County.
Okay.
Bro, not even 1 million votes.
That's not even 1%, is it?
No, to get this passed. Not even that many votes. But here's the stickler. When I work with these phone banks, the one thing that I indicate makes me work is I'm not hiring anybody unless you got something to prove and you've been in trouble. So the re-entry spots, individuals who are on parole, individuals who are on probation, individuals that really need it, these are the teams who are on these phones. And in that 520 plus thousand votes, the team I had in 2017 arguably pushed close to 22,000 people to the polls to vote. So if those individuals like us aren't on the phone calling, urging people, telling them how important voting is, there is no $355 million a year for the next 10 years because it passed. And the money is there.
Right.
So that demonstrates the power in voting. The 8th district, our district, right? There's 120,000 plus folks. In an election for city council, maybe 15,000 people vote. Maybe. Come on now.
Yeah, that's bad.
Less than 10% of those who are eligible to vote, but you complain when Metro is in the hood slamming individuals up against cars because you look like somebody that did something. Well, the things that keeps Metro out of the community doing stuff like that is when you march to the polls and vote and you get elected officials that support your position. And they know that, they are public servants. We've allowed individuals to move away from the space where they think they're public servants. What folks got to realize is elected officials work for you. When they're campaigning for election, that's the job interview. Your vote gets to decide whether or not they get the job. So you have to take those who believe in it. You have to take your power off the table. If you don't believe in it, don't be somebody that engages in disparaging conversation and tries to talk an individual out of doing it. Now, if you don't have no other reason to vote, 2 reasons right now. The DA, I'm gonna give you more than that. First of all, the sheriff, whose officers have their feet on your neck and you don't like it, that's an elected position.
The top sheriff.
The top sheriff is an elected position. The one that controls the sheriff department, that is an elected position. The mayor who participates in the hiring of a police chief that you might not like is an elected position. The DA is an elected position. It don't cost you nothing to vote. It don't cost no sweat. You ain't got to exercise. You ain't got to surrender no position. You ain't got to do none of that. All it takes is to check the box. Lastly, have your eyes open for this. And if you don't vote for anything else, vote against this. There is something called Reducing Crime and Keeping California Safe Act of 2020. Remember that. Reducing Crime, Keeping California Safe in 2020. They refer to it as the Cooper Initiative. This is something that's going to be on the ballot in 2020. The reason why we don't want this to pass, if you haven't heard of AB 109, it's the realignment of prisons that got some of our individuals home from prison. If you haven't heard of Prop 36 is something that voters voted in that made your 3 strikes have to be a serious or a violent felony. They couldn't give you a life sentence anymore for deodorant, draws, or pizza. There's that. You have Prop 47, which I was talking about. There's Prop 47, and there's Prop 57. What the Cooper Initiative and this reducing crime of 2020 does, it makes every last one of those criminal justice reform pieces disappear with one ballot initiative. For Prop 47, the felony ceiling, the monetary number attached to it, goes from $950 to $250. So for those of us who have bad tempers and who are in bad relationships, you can break your girlfriend or your boyfriend's car window and your ass gonna be charged with a felony.
Yeah.
If this passes. If you stay at home and don't vote, you're in trouble. Some drunk drivings that were once not considered to be serious will be considered a felony. It will recharge paroles that they won't have the choice of whether to violate you. They will mandatorily have to violate you for certain things because the law says that they have to do it. Now think about that. If you were somebody that was moving around in the 80s or in the 70s and you can go to the parole to see your parole officer with a frown on your face and find yourself in jail in 60 days because they didn't like the way you look. If this reducing crime passes, there will be a return to that. And if that wasn't enough, y'all ready for this?
Yeah.
If you get arrested for felony or misdemeanor, they will be extracting your DNA and you will not get released until you get it to them.
Ain't that something?
Yeah, so they putting your DNA and your genes on file for misdemeanors. Think about that. Stay at home. Don't pay attention to what's going on. You go to jail for a misdemeanor drunk driving or a misdemeanor DV, a domestic violence. You didn't have an argument with your girl, you in there, you charged with, or your guy. You know, let's be equal opportunity accusers. Or in the allegations, we gotta parcel them out equally. You get in there, it's a misdemeanor. They cite you out. Oh, but before you get out, you're gonna have to give us a DNA sample. And you say, for what? Because you're not keeping up with like the legislative stuff that's taking place. We didn't allow this shit to pass. Like for what? Oh, well, the law says if you got a misdemeanor, this particular kind, we get to extract your DNA. And you say no. And they say, okay, well, you can go back in there. We're going to send you to the county jail and you're not getting out until you give us the DNA sample. Well, I'm going to get bailed out. You can put your money up if you want to. You're not getting that. You know what I mean? This is the kind of stuff that gets determined to our detriment when we don't participate. We have to participate if the world, the way it looks now and how things have changed since the arrival of COVID-19. I know we're running out of time. How much time we got, Matt?
We got all night. Whenever you got to go.
With the arrival of like COVID-19 and then the stuff with this being highlighted about this senseless destruction and consumption of Black life that's institutionally and systemically sponsored and has given all the decisions that being making, like healthcare decisions, which hospitals, who gets tested, like who gets charged for, criminal acts, who gets charged for killing us. These are politicians. These are individuals who are public servants who work for you. And if you don't participate in the process, then their decision making does not have to be in your best interest or for your best interest because they are beholden to you. And for those of us that don't know, and this is Not you know. It's an educational component, and in politics is what's understood. There are three kinds of power. There's money, which unfortunately most of us don't have, and then there's people, which we do have, and there's military force and coercion. We're out of the two. No, we don't have an army, and we ain't got no money collectively. As consumers, we spend more money than anybody in the country, but it's diffused. So we put it together, we have some money. We don't got that. So we don't got that kind of power. But the thing that we do have is we got some people and we got some numbers, and we have to point those numbers towards our best interest. That's the only way that we are going to create institutional and systemic change. Change in policy, like policy that can be administratively, maneuvered or ping pong back and forth. You get one administration say, we promise not to do that again. Then another administration comes back and be like, whatever they said, we don't care no more. Well, what we need to start looking at is the institutional changes that is necessary that prevent administrations from coming in and changing and creating a culture that is harmful to us. I mean, bro, just like I do, we're being harmed. Spiritually, we are being harmed because there's an absence of love in our community. There's an enormous amount of self-hatred that we engage in that we need to move past, because at this point, and I'm pretty sure LaTanya said that this, when she was on here last week, is we are all we have. We are responsible for one another. And we have to understand that, unfortunately, for some of us, for the millennials, you were born in an era where you have no idea what Black love looks like. You've never been in an environment where Black folks loved each other and felt a sense of connection. You've never been in a world that gang activity did not exist. When we were killing each other for color, you were born into a traumatized environment, but it doesn't have to continue to be like that. We have to understand that we are all we have, and we are on the verge of extinction. We don't have no power, and our numbers are diminishing. I mean, we've been blended for a whole bunch of reasons, which is a different story. But I'm saying we need to get involved. We need to get involved because we want to be treated fairly. Equality it's a catchphrase, but it's like a misnomer. It doesn't mean what it said. We don't want equality. We want equity. We want an investment in the world and in the environment like that we come from, that we live in. We want ownership. You know what I mean? We want to be in control, not in a false sense of control, like the gangsterism where we control the block. This is bigger than the block.
Yeah.
I mean, we especially when you're talking about Southern California, for those of us that know, cool. For those of us that don't know, then be informed. The cultures we create impact and affect the world.
Yeah.
The world.
Most certainly.
And that's a power that you can harness with intention, and that's what we have to start doing. We have to know that we have the power to make change. Can't you? I mean, it's obvious right now. Can't you see what's going on right now? The world has stood up for individuals that looks like us and said that shit y'all doing to them is wrong. It needs to be fixed. Not tomorrow. It needs to be fixed right damn now. So as a sports analogy, the ball is in our court. We all think about like historic moments that we wish we were there, we wish we could be involved in, like in the 60s, 1965 with the Voter Rights Act with the dogs. Like, boy, if I was back then, this is what I would have did. And then it's like in the 80s, Or the 70s, you had the Black Panther power movement. It was like, boy, if I was back then, this is what I would did. The Black Panther changed some stuff. And then it was the 90s. It was like, oh my goodness, the uprising and all that stuff. I was there. This is what I did. And then we looked at the TV when the world stood up once and said the stuff that's going on in South Africa, that's institutionalized and racist system, y'all got that. We not accepting it that no more. And an individual walked out of prison and became the president of a country.
Nelson Mandela.
And we were all thinking like, oh, that's cool. If I could just, well, this is the if I could just moment right now.
Mm-hmm.
This is history. This is a moment in time that's going to be talked about for the rest of.
Yep.
You get a chance. I get a chance. We get a chance to make our mark. Do not let this moment in history escape us. It's ours, and we have to own it. We have to own it, and if we don't own it, it's going to be a tragedy because this time may never come again because it's going to be hard to convince folks we care about each other when we didn't capitalize on this moment right now. All right, let me back up. I'm starting to sound like a preacher.
No, that was deep though. You said you dropped some gems, and that was Nelson Mandela. For those that don't know who he was talking about in South Africa.
Yeah.
I just want to make this clear. I like when you brought up South Los Angeles and California, Southern California. That's what I try to tell my people. And I say my people, meaning those is in California that we can influence or enlighten. What Big H is talking about is clear. He's talking about the same things that I was talking about, and that's our locals. Whatever you guys are doing in Texas or Alabama or Georgia, you guys need to go find out what's going on there, how y'all can get laws changed, who's in office, what did it take for them to get there, what's going to be on this ballot, what's it all about. So I don't speak on you guys' states. That's up to you guys to figure that out. But I encourage you guys to get educated, because this man right here just told you guys how he didn't believe in voting. He didn't know nothing about voting. He using I don't know if he used this, but he went from prison politics to the real nationwide or local politics. And that's big, man. You guys probably don't know how big that is, but he progressed in his thinking and in his actions. And that's all I tell you guys to do. I don't tell you guys to vote Republican or Democrat or independent. I don't tell you guys what deputy sheriff for you guys to vote or district attorney or mayor or governor or none of that. That's on you guys to do the homework and figure out who's the best person in your interest and do something about it. Make something happen. Don't just sit back and say nothing changes, because I'm going to just take you guys back 3 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago. A lot of you guys in the comment section were saying, we've been marching forever and marching never changed nothing. Oh, you guys tore up the city in 65 and 92 and nothing has changed. There's a lot to change every time there was an uprising. You have to go and do your homework on that. There's laws and streets being changed right now within the last 2 weeks because of George Floyd's death.
Yeah.
Things do change, whether you rioting, whether you looting, whether you getting on TV talking about it, whether you using your connections, your networks, your dollars, whatever it is, everybody plays a part in change. And so just step up and be the one to change things, unless you're happy with how things are going right now.
Yeah.
It just, my thing, Big H, because I know you don't know, but my whole thing, which Cash App, Asiatic Supreme? And Big H, do you have any type of organization?
What the organization I'm currently on staff with is LA Voice.
Okay, LA Voice.
Yeah.
If somebody wants to donate or reach you, how would they do
yeah,
that?
well, they can have my email.
What is it?
Which is Tim at lavoice.org.
All right.
Or my contact number. My number is a work number.
Okay. All right, I got you. So y'all can reach him that way. At Tim at lavoice.org. As far as me, you guys, they're usually in the video description, but I'm gonna post it for you anyway. kevmacvideos. So I mean, this is big, man. I'm glad you came, and I don't know how much time you got, but before you do go, I want you to do you know anything about the 1994 crime bill that I guess the Clintons are part of?
Yeah.
Let me ask you this question, because a lot of people, and I'm sure you're aware of this, a lot of people talk about Democrats or Biden or the Clintons and that crime bill. Mm-hmm. And they are right when they speak against those individuals. But are you aware how many Republicans voted for that bill?
Well, a majority of Democrats and Republicans voted for the 1994 crime bill. There was no that was a crime bill that was ushered in an environment of fear.
Yeah. Yes.
On the tip of like that magnificent cocaine era and automatic weapons and an enormous amount of death and destruction. So everybody was in fear because they felt like their communities was under siege. So nobody protested the 1994 crime bill because people will surrender a degree of their rights to feel safe. Mm-hmm. And there was a narrative in the environment that basically said everybody was dangerous, that we needed something, that we needed laws to corral the lawless. So when the 94 crime bill was put together, it was done so in a manner to make people feel safe. And Republicans and Democrats voted on it equally. There was no contentious point in that where it was challenged. The country felt like they needed it at that point. And it is the worst piece of criminal legislation focused at disenfranchised communities and them areas where Black folks live, in the history of the criminal justice reform. I mean, that shit was worse than the vagrancy laws, the Jim Crow laws, you name it. It incorporated everything that was detrimental to us, mm-hmm. and just had us line up and sign up for them enormous amounts of time.
Well, the reason why I asked, I just wanted to say this to you and let them know once again. See, what you're saying is absolutely correct. They both overwhelmingly voted for the same thing.
Yeah.
But this is what they don't tell you. The distractors and the news and those that's anti-Democrat or anti-Clinton or anti-Biden, mm-hmm. they don't tell you that 95 out of 100 Republicans voted for that bill. They don't tell you that. They make you think, they lead you to believe that the Democrats was so evil that they passed that. But they don't tell you that 95 out of 100.
Yeah, they're all guilty.
Yeah. And look, and out of that 95, one of them didn't even cast a vote.
Overwhelming majority didn't need to.
Yeah, didn't need to. But the fact that people leave that out, it boggles my mind, homie, because it's like if you're gonna tell something, just be fair. Tell it all.
Yeah.
Don't just tell the parts you want people to hear. Tell it all. You know what I mean? But that's not really neat here nor there.
No. See, here's the thing. It's important and it's relevant because we think that the 3 strikes law is the worst thing ever. But we had the opportunity to repeal it in its totality in 2005, we didn't show up. We didn't vote.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And they had to double back with Prop 66 just to get rid of the any felony trigger for the 3 strikes thing, which is later on. But we still are saddled with a 3 strikes law that if an individual has 2 felony convictions, regardless of what they are, and you get a serious or a violent felony conviction, you can still wind up in jail for the rest of your life. And that's something we need to work on. And I can't emphasize enough about this voting stuff. But now that we're sitting here having these conversations, I'm going to and this is something that's bad, but it emphasizes how voting can be helpful and harmful. There's a proposition called Prop 66. And this is a conversation that's done in objectivity, not to place blame or anywhere, not to harm victims. You know, all the respect in the world for victims. They had a right, you know what I mean? And they should be treated conscientiously like anybody else. But Prop 66 is a death penalty initiative. And during the voting process in 2016, what some voters voted for is the appellate process for individuals on death row had to be exhausted within a 5-year window, right? Because it was costing too much money for individuals to be appealing their cases for 30 and 40 years, you know what I mean, before anything happened. But the thing about it is, there have been a lot of individuals on death row who have been exonerated and wasn't guilty of the crimes, and there may be individuals on death row who are guilty of the crime. But what the passing of Prop 66 did, because there was an opposing proposition on the ballot, Prop 62, which eliminated the death penalty, and everybody's sentence would have been commuted to life without. But no, we didn't vote that in. We let Prop 66 pass, created an appellate window where you have to exhaust your legal remedies within 5 years. But what those who sold the narrative didn't tell people is that it would be retroactive. There's 700 plus individuals on death row, and about 700 of them is outside the 5-year window of the appellate process. So as of, hear me when I tell you this, what is that? March 2019, I believe, the governor of California was, because of the appellate process, because Jerry Brown appealed it and lost in the Supreme Court. But the new governor, Gavin Newsom, was set to have to preside over 5 to 7 executions a month. You hear that now, right? 5 to 7 executions a month per law, until those who were outside of the 5-year appellate process window were no longer on death row. He would have been, had he not declared a moratorium, which is the right of a governor who is an elected official and get elected through the voting process. So had another individual ended up in that position who did not have the best interest of some folks at heart, we would be witnessing, along with COVID-19, along with Floyd, along with all these other cases that seem to have stacked on top of each other where black folks have been killed, we would have been witnessing on TV 5 to 7 executions a month. And the state of California would be the most murderous state on the planet, more murderous than any of these other countries by law.
Mm-hmm.
We have to pay attention. This is not the time to be like leaving that kind of power on the table.
Right. I've been trying to educate them on Republican governors of California versus Democratic governors of California. And from my background, my family, my friends, my homeboys, it's not even close which one is in my best interest.
Yeah.
It's not even up for debate. Anybody in California that agrees with the Republican governors in my lifetime obviously stand against me and my folks. And there's no way to spin that.
Say that again.
Real talk, man. They don't stand with me and my folks. They stand against us if they voting for or supporting a California Republican governor. And do you know, Big H, this is personal for me, but I got to give it to you. Do you know one brother who's a fan, as he say, of KevMac and kevmacvideos, watches all of my interviews, as he say, told me that I'm selfish because of what I just told you? I'm selfish because my family, my friends, and my homeboys are out of prison now. I'm selfish. That just blew my mind, bro. Like, how is that selfish? I don't see it. If I am, I don't see it. I don't understand it. But
that's not. We want our people free. Not only do we want our people free, we want our people whole. It's the lack of wholeness that makes those journeys through those concrete and steel enclosures an acceptable thing in some of our lives. It's like it's an occupational hazard. Like, it's my job to be a criminal, and if I get caught and end up in prison every now and then, so what? That's the only option for me. But that's not necessarily a truth. That's a truth we've accepted because we've let a system tell us that that's okay. That it's okay for the perception of somebody black to make it to college and graduate from college and get a degree to be special and the exception to the rule. Right. And for those of us that don't go to college, they're like, oh, whatever, that ain't no big deal. But if you tweak that and look at some other folks who are a little lighter than us, it's a disappointment if they don't go to college. It's an expectation that they will go to college and achieve certain things. That is the world that we want to create for our people. The world of self-destruction, that's one we've adopted. We've adopted a culture of savagery that's not ours. But because when we commit to stuff, because our energy is what it is, once we get in our minds to be a certain way and do a certain thing, almost nothing can stop us. So why can't we do that in a manner for uplifting each other and creating opportunities for folks that look like us? Because at the end of the day, that's what it's about. For those of us who are super hardcore, we say, yeah, we don't need that. I'm all I need. I've been this way all my life. Ain't no need for me to change. That's okay. If that's what you want for you. What about the 10 individuals behind you that don't want that? What about those 10 individuals behind you who want to feel like they belong to something? You know what I mean? Like they're a part of an energy that can create the kind of change that changes the world. What about that individual that wants to achieve a degree of self actualization that they can understand who they are and why they are? What about that person? So if you're that individual that don't care, please, sir, ma'am, just step to the side. Let us talk to that other 9 that want this, that won't change, that want to live in a world where, for one, maybe we shouldn't be that afraid of an individual like us killing us, and we can focus our fear on this state-sponsored violence that we need to be looking out for. Because this country we live in is hostile towards the color of who we are. And even if it isn't an obvious, it's something that's encoded in them that male or female, we tend to make individuals uncomfortable. The strength that we exude, the things that we are capable of, good and bad, makes folks uncomfortable. So, I mean, put the bad aside. Let's be good to each other. Let's get whole. We don't need a kumbaya moment, but we need communication skills so we can figure out how to move around in the same world without harming each other and be there at those necessary times to protect each other. And for right now, no offense, we ain't doing that good a job.
I got two people that want to come on.
Bring them on.
Okay. I'll bring them on in 1 second. I just want to reiterate how much I appreciate you, your wisdom, your knowledge, and your the way you can articulate what it is that you're trying to get out.
I want some of that power. I want for my people to have some of that power on the table. I want it to be my people that have our best interests that can write a check for $150 million.
That's what it was. When I was pausing and hesitating earlier, I wanted you to speak on those two things that you talked to me and Cutes about. And I'm gonna just let you know, Rockhead wants to come on, and Cutes wants to come on.
Hey.
So look, real quick, if you could just sum it up real short, speak on the $100,000 checks you was talking about, and the board of prison terms when you said you talked to the governor.
Okay. And all right, let's talk about like what's going on like in the city right now. It's budget time, and they're doing like the budget matrix. Now, prior to COVID-19 and the George Floyd assassination, the mayor had promised the police department a raise. But it was prior to us. So with the protest, with the power that was exuded in the streets, with the demonstration, he's agreed to like move from $150 million and $250 million out of the law enforcement budget into community-based programs, which yay for that, and that is a good thing. But what folks need to understand is 51% of the city's budget is spent on public safety. A lot of that is for law enforcement. So the police budget is equivalent to $1 billion plus. So $150 million, $250 million out of $1 billion is not a lot. But the police also have a metro contract for upwards to $900 million. And they also have a LA Unified School District contract that's a multi-million-dollar contract. So when you put that $250 million in the context of all that money, then it's like a gag gift for individuals that's saying, hey, we need you to do this. What we need from our county, from our city, is to stop fucking telling us that law enforcement is the answer to public safety. We are, now, don't get me wrong, this idea of individuals policing themselves, in theory is cool, but it makes me uncomfortable because what does that look like? There's no time in history when individuals who have won concessions don't lean towards a reflection of oppression that the previous individuals in power and were in charge of that was. So we have to be mindful of that when we start asking those kind of questions for the kind of power to regulate and police our own. We need a powerful degree of communication before something like that can work for us. Will it work? Yeah, it can work. But not to say the way it worked too many times, it's going to work in order to make something like that take place. Now, the other thing that Kev Mack is talking about is the current governor that we have in being at the table and having conversations, because organizationally, I find myself positioned across politicians and people of power all the time who entertain like questions. For those of y'all who don't know, the Board of Prison Terms, the main commissioners, it's 15 of them. Historically, at least 14 out of those 15 have been from law enforcement background. They've been ex-police chiefs, ex-wardens, ex-captains, ex-lieutenants, ex-highway patrol, ex-prosecutors. All of them come from former law enforcement environment. So in a conversation, because I ain't got no breaks, I just asked, what do you think about a formerly incarcerated individual being on the Board of Prison Terms? He processed the question. I was like, I consider that. I asked it once, seen him again, asked it again, and each time there was no pushback, like never a chance, never anything. I've been to events that the panel was state assembly, state senators, state whatever, they talking about criminal justice reform, and my response is criminal justice reform doesn't work when it comes to individuals with life sentences if you don't change the parole board. Would y'all consider a justice system impacted individual being on the California Department of Corrections parole board? And they all said, yeah. How we gonna do it? Where your people at? Guess what, Kev Mack? Talking to you and this audience right here, y'all the people. If y'all want to see something like that happen, but the thing about that is the California Parole Board, them are not elected positions. Those are positions that are selected by the governor of California and approved by the Senate. So if a governor has your best interest of, and when the time comes and there's a position open, anybody can apply for it. But what I say is this: we need legislation, and it doesn't have to be a ballot initiative. It can be done through state legislatures that says at no point in time out of those 15 commissioners can the majority of those commissioners be former law enforcement. And we can get it done this year if we wanted to. If you want to see how much power you got, put your power in that direction. You can do it. You can pick up the phone right now and start making phone calls that I didn't know the parole board was structured like it is. This wrong. That needs to change. What do we need to do? It's a simple process. Your voice matters. Your vote matters. Who you are matters. They know it. You just don't. But I'm telling you, you do. I can't like replay or recount the number of times that I visited with and they say, oh, this is cool. People should come more often. The people don't show up. Other folks who may be in opposition to what we want and what we need, they show up. We need to start showing up. We need to start speaking out. We need to start letting individuals know. We need to start sharing who we are and what our struggles are. Nobody knows you're struggling if you don't tell them. Mm-hmm. I can't look at you and tell you struggling if you don't say nothing. These stories are important. What you go through is important. The fact that sometimes you can't pay your bills is important. The fact that you work at a job that engages in what's known as wage theft, when your employer is making $100 an hour for the work you do and you only making $10.50, there's something wrong with that. Now that's not literal. That's just an example of some of the things that we suffer from. But if we don't step up and speak out saying, hey, it's over for that. We don't have to ask. It's time for us to start demanding. We've been here long enough. We 400 and some plus years. in this thing. We've been here long enough. We don't have to set crumbs off the table no more. And I don't want to get too historic or too like over the top black, but black folks built this country. There is no America. There is no American wealth without individuals like us. And you can say, oh, yeah, I want to hear the slave story and all that, whatever. There were indigenous folks over here before Christopher Columbus got drunk and came over here. But once they started importing our folks to this barren land, it started to create generational wealth. 250 fucking years of free labor. Think about that. 250 plus years of free labor, and the additional 100 plus years is an engagement in wage theft. You have not been paid what you're worth. Your ancestors have not gotten what they're worth. This land belongs to you, to us. We have to claim our legacy, or other folks are going to continue to hold on to it because we say we don't want it. Well, I want my piece, and I want y'all to have your piece too. So if we can get together and align these voices and get some of these signatures on these documents, get individuals registered to vote, get our people in these positions, and once they're in these positions, ask for accountability and compliance. This is what you said you was going to do. If you don't do it, we're going to be 100 deep, we're going to be 200 deep, we're going to be 300 deep at your house if we have to, until you do what you're supposed to do.
What up, Rockhead?
What up,
What's
y'all?
up? What's up, kid? What's up, Ashima?
What up, dude?
How you
living?
feeling?
Hey, like
I'm
$1 million
good, man.
check waiting for the bank to open.
Yeah, I'm doing the same, though. You know, taking care of my girls.
That's right.
You know, I got 6 beautiful daughters. I got a freshman out of Cal State Northridge. She was 2 points away making the dean list. You know, then my 20-year-old daughter, she doing well in college. So my only son just got his BA degree.
Okay, that's what's up.
So I'm trying to make sure they ain't nothing like me, and 100% better. Take my strength, but not my weaknesses. You know what I mean?
That's right.
So that's how I've been educating minds. But everything you saying is correct. Cause it's so funny. When I went back up to Department of Corrections to meet with all the rookies and speak, and the lady who set it up when me and Jim went up there, they had no idea. They made sure they didn't tell nobody I was an ex-con, that I did all that time in the pen. So when Jim spoke, and then when I got up there, and I laid a foundation where I set them up. And I asked some particular questions. And when I was done, I looked them dead in their eyes and said, I'm a former gang member as well as I'm ex-convict. And you can hear a ladybug fly through that motherfucker, because the shit they responded to and the questions I was asking, how they prepare themselves, how they taught to deal with convicts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They've been taught everything that's negative, how to treat us, how to deal with us. And you're absolutely right. On that advisory board, ain't nobody there. All of them's ex-cops.
Yeah.
I learned that years ago. And we need to have a voice, and we need to have 4 or 5 people up there who experience the things we experience, because we have a true expertise. You know what I mean? And we can't continue to take ourselves for granted, because we have so much power within ourselves, within our communities, and we just got to step out that box. Because if we don't step out that box, we're gonna continue crying the blues. So everything you're saying is correct. We gotta vote. You know, we got to come out in forces. We got to show our faces, and we got to hold them accountable. And once we're able to do that on a consistent basis, and the reason why they trying to make changes now, it's been consistent. It didn't stop 2 or 3 days later. You know what I mean? It was more than us involved. So now they got their little back against the wall. They trying to figure out a way how to get out of it. This is when we step on them. This is when we push them.
Yeah.
You know, he could say 250 million. He gonna cut. Man, we know that ain't shit.
Yeah.
Come on now. Before, we thought that was a lot of money because that was our childhood conditioning. But if you've been in this business and this system as long as we've been now, you understand that's nothing. So don't feed me what you think I want to hear. Show me what you're going to do based on what you're going to do in action, not just in voice.
Yeah.
You know, but everything you're saying, man, I'm glad to hear your voice. And I'm glad, and I've been hearing you've been really into it, into your shit.
I'm more behind the scenes than up front, but I'm figuring that, you know, at this, you know, moment I've proven whatever I needed to prove to myself. I'll be out in 5 years. That's the longest that I've not been in handcuffs since I was 5 years old. So, you know, I know I'm in the lane that I'm supposed to be in. Oh, you know what? I got to tell you viewers this, Kev Mac, because this is what I forgot. Voting. What voting has changed and twisted some stuff around. Hey, you, nobody who has been sent to prison in California that look like us that has had an opportunity to have a jury of their peers. Well, guess what? The legislation has changed, right? Former felons can now sit on juries. Listen to that. And you know where they get that the jury pool from? The voter registration. So we can now, if our folks register to vote, those that hate voting, that don't like it, you can end up being on a jury and doing the right thing and giving an individual a degree of justice that's been denied from the court systems our whole lifetime. I ain't never had no jury of my peers and never even thought that I would even get one, let alone wearing it. Huh?
Yeah.
Rose? Who?
I can hear him. I can hear him.
Okay.
I can hear him, Kev.
Kev Mac froze.
Yeah, Kev froze.
He froze.
But I can hear you, Tim. I can hear you, Tim.
The people can hear. But now we get to serve on jury. We get to serve on juries now. You know what I mean? And you know, we're in the era where that kind of stuff is where all things are possible. As of like 2 weeks ago, or let's just say as of the arrival of COVID-19, things that were impossible became possible overnight. And we have to step into that possible and make stuff happen for our folks.
That's right. How you doing, Tim?
I'm doing all right, bro.
It's good to hear you. How you doing, Rockhead? It's good to see
you.
You.
Always, you know that, cute.
Y'all
shine. Hey, Tim, it's good to I like the topic, Tim, and man, I just want to commend you for becoming so educated in you know, in the civil, you know, thing that's going around in California, you know, understanding about votes, because civics used to be of interest to me, you know, when I was in junior high school and more in high school, I drifted away from civics and, you know, understanding how the government works, you know, and everything. But I used to didn't want to pay too much attention, but I used to like when the teacher would set the class up and said, well, hey, Gilbert, they voted for you to become the president. And then they voted for another guy to be the mayor and city council. And, you know, we held these roles for a whole week. Yeah. You know, and when things would come to me, I would have to, you know, make a judgment on certain things. And it was pretty cool. And then the teacher that structured everything, they ended up getting rid of her. You know, and then we quit playing the game. But this is no longer a game. This is real life.
Yeah, it is.
And somehow along the way, I got lost in the process. I know you brothers probably got lost in the process too. But I tell you what, being lost in the process doesn't mean that the negative process wasn't affecting us, because we were being punished by the process. Yeah. You know, and some of the punishments that was issued out by the process was was laws that were voted on by the people. And it didn't take that many people to vote in those bad laws. Like
Exactly.
what made 3 strikes so bad, they made it retroactive. They made it go back and get felonies of guys who were in juvenile hall. You know, if he had a felony at that time, they could go and say, well, we could use the strike that this kid got when he was, 13, 14, 15, bring it up to when he was an adult. And now we can strike him out. So the laws that are hellish, and what I mean by hellish is that they have a negative effect on people of color, and they put them in prison, and it enhances the time. People don't understand about the gun enhancement, the gang enhancement, the injunctions. All of these things were laws that were voted in to cripple a race of people that was already not doing so good at the time.
Exactly.
But what's so crazy, Q, when you say that? I've been on the stand 20 times as a gang expert for various homeboys, and I supposed to get on the stand for Three Finger Louis' son as well from years back. But everybody I got on the stand with, I got that gang enhancement taken off. And that's what I say again. We have to figure out what's our strength to help us. Because even I use whiskey as an example. Man, they was gonna kill whiskey with gang enhancement. I got on that stand, my boy getting out soon now. And he called me, said, man, thank you, right? If it wasn't for you, man, kicking the motherfucking so-called gang expert cops in their ass, man, they'd have hanged me. And we got to take advantage of our strength. All of us got so much strength. Yeah, we went through what we went through, but sometimes meant for us to go through what we went through to be the people we are today. That's like right. You said, Chima, you've been out 5. I've been out since 1992. You know what I mean? And I didn't give myself that kind of credit, but I made it. Yes, it must, but I have to find myself first. I have to deal with myself. You know what I mean? And meeting Jim Brown and dealing with Jim Brown and going through life skills program. Once I took responsibility for myself, it allowed me to become the man I am today, where I want to go out there and do so much more good to take away all the bullshit I always been into. But once I took responsibility for myself, homie, I've done so much, and I'm continuing to do so much, because if we don't stand up, if we don't speak out, especially if us as elders, in a sense, 50 and up, we elders now, and we got so many youngsters trying to figure out but don't have our idea. And it's like when I deal with my son got his BA a month ago, his BA degree. And like I told him, he got to figure out what's his next step. He wasn't going to play basketball overseas until his COVID-19. So I told him, see, you're not going overseas. You have to figure it out, son. You can't sit on your butt now. You just can't say I got a BA, a bachelor degree, and then I'm going to sit back and be satisfied and content. So I got to find something that I could drill in him. He could drill in himself and say, okay, Dad, this is where I want to go. And then I could push him, and I could lend him all my assistance. You get what I'm saying? But we have to understand. Man. We have to figure ways out, man, to really enlighten what we're doing today. We enlighten a particular type of audience. But there's so many more people we got to enlighten. Like I said yesterday, Kev, when you see 3 or 4 young sisters in front of this movement of all these protesting, and they no older than 26, 27, and they got a powerful young voice. We need them voices. We need to encourage them voices, because something got to change, man. And we content, if those who are content gonna sit on their behind and be content. But if we're not content, I mean, we got to figure things out. Sheila, what you're saying today and what you're giving the audience, a lot of us don't know a lot of this shit.
Oh yeah, I mean, but that's what this is all about. I mean, it's all about information, and it's all about timing. Because I feel like you can't force anything. Nothing happens until it's time. And I don't know how many people are watching this, but me and Kev Mac did the video, right? A couple years ago. Thanks to you. I got on there. I did the video thing, but I didn't appropriately credential like the madness in the streets. So the first portion of the video, the individuals thought I was going to, glamorize the hood stuff. It was an enormous amount of viewers. By the time we got to the last portion of, and I start talking like I'm talking right now, the viewership decreased by 80%. And I'm like, y'all, there was anticipation that it would be the super hood stuff, but I was ducking and dodging the question that Kev was asking, trying to, seriously, trying to be appropriate and not glamorize their destruction and try to give individuals some information. And some folks got the information, but the most positive point, people didn't want to hear that. But we living in a world now, thanks to, a few events, some more death and destruction, that this conversation and these kind of conversations are the most important conversations taking place. It's our time now. Now,
you know what's so crazy?
Yeah.
Me and Kev talked about this over and over again. My first 4 interviews with Kev, everybody loving them. But the last one I talked about how I changed my life, that shit's still stuck on 45. You get what I'm saying? They don't want to hear positive. They don't want to hear the power of how someone could change, go from one extreme to another, and change their lives and do the things they're doing in their community. And that's the sad part of our culture. You know what I'm saying? But like you said, as long as I get one response and that one response tells someone else, that person tells someone else, I'm doing all right. But like I said, we can't force them. Can't force a spoon in their mouth.
Yeah,
but we get something to click, we're gonna be all right.
You know what? You know what holds us back? Misinformation. Tim spoke on it. It's the misinformation that is brought about through someone from word to ear. From mouth to ear. And then another person takes that misinformation and they run with it. And then misinformation becomes a truth. It becomes a truth in a person that's been deceived of the truth. So now the misinformation, which is a lie, is holding the person back from the truth. One of the biggest lies that exist in street gang culture is that you can't get out of your gang without getting fucked up. That's the biggest misconception, the biggest lie in history. When I was a kid, an astronomical amount of youth were getting out of the gang that I was a part of. And they were making simple moves like going to live with their grandmother, going to another state, not coming out, hanging out with us, not going to that corner, favoring another exit when they leave school. It was just the simple changes that these individuals made that had a positive effect on their life.
But they got society thinking you can't step out.
Yeah, you can step out. Yes, I missed them. I missed them because out of a selfish part of myself, I enjoyed the camaraderie of them, the company of them. But looking back on it, some of the guys joined the military. Some of them completed their education. And, because of the magic of Facebook, these people communicate with me now. They say, hey, Cutes, I remember when we were kids and I knew all your brothers. And I'll be like, wow, do you remember me? And once you told me, not to join a gang. And then some kids say, well, man, you kind of argue with me to stay in a gang. So I'm getting it from both sides. But I just saying that the misinformation, it cripples us in our decision-making process. I didn't know that I could be on the jury until I just heard my brother mention it. I thought when they would send my jury summons letters, I would just throw them in the trash. I was getting them. And I would look at them and laugh. And I would just throw it in the trash. Now, I could have been justice. Yeah. I could have been justice for someone, that was in them trenches. But I threw it in the trash.
Yeah. I do the same thing, Cutes. I never knew that either.
Yeah.
Thanks, H. Oh, yeah. Thanks for enlightening me. And Kev, it's just that misinformation that, it seems like it's prevalent, in our community to keep us down. but we clearing it up. For the day, I want you guys to know, if you're in a street gang and you want to get out, all you have to do is make some moves. Other than dropping out, other than throwing your comrade under the bus, there's ways of getting out with dignity. I could think of a lot of different brothers that I grew up with that got out of my gang with dignity.
I want to chime in on that, especially on the gang stuff, is a lot of individuals don't want to get out, even though it leads to like a bunch of negative stuff. And the reason why is, as human nature, we're emotional creatures, bro. And the gang gives us a sense of belonging and love. It embraces like who we are on a core level when our families can't understand us. When we have these things that are going on with us, whatever they are, then we align ourselves with like-minded folks, and it generates something that makes us feel like we belong. So it's I like with the younger generations that involve themselves with it now, you start to think like, why would an individual get involved when you know the conclusion is you might end up dead? But all the younger generations are gravitating towards that stuff because it gives them a sense of belonging, no matter how destructive it is. In our core, at that emotional level, that spiritual level, we want to feel that tribal sense of connection. And if we can't get that with our families, if we can't get that in other spaces, then we start to gravitate towards that. And one other thing that is the stuff that just has gotten culturally acceptable, even though we made some mistakes and we've hurt some folks. It's still culturally acceptable. It's okay now to belong to the non-death side of the gang culture. It's glamorized. It's been Hollywood got it and made it. It's got swag now, so everybody wants to be a part of that. The shiny side. But then there's another side where when the music stops, when somebody shows up and the gunshots take place, there's that side of it, but we're still willing to move towards it, even considering that. So I once was of the mindset to think like, man, I don't know what these youngsters is thinking about, until like at that point of self-analysis, I realized like, why did I start hanging around and really folding into, I folded into because my thoughts were bigger than the small space that I was hanging around in. And I felt like I needed to go find a group that if I told them something I wanted to do, they wouldn't look at me sideways and be like, you little young whatever, you done lost your mind. I'm not finna do, you know what I mean? When you take that kind of energy around a certain crew and you say something, their eyes get big and they be like, let's go. Let's do it. And it gives you that sense of family, that sense of belonging, that sense of love. It's unfortunate that with that all the negativity comes, but at its foundation, that's what it is. But it's up to like older dudes, I don't know what generation are we from? The gray hair generation?
we from the original generation. We from ground zero. And the thing is, it was no blueprint of the gang lifestyle, of the gang banging lifestyle, but we created the blueprint. So now we back in the youth of today. They could see a blueprint, whereas before we didn't see a blueprint, and we were deceived by Hollywood in the movies, in the glamorous side of this thing, which helped influence us in part. But I tell you one thing, if the young people don't listen to men like you, Tim, like you, Rockhead, like me, like Kev Mac, who have spent the majority of our life incarcerated, having guns drew on us, being shot at, and some being shot, and just, fighting, in rivalries in the streets of Los Angeles and walking through the back streets like you and I did, Tim, and Rockhead, and more recently, you and me, Tim, walking through South Central in the back streets of the 83rd Street Gangster Hood. I'm letting the young people know today that they should listen to us and hear our insight. And if we, making a suggestion for you to pump the brakes on your foolishness, because what's ahead of you is not a secret anymore. We're telling you it's going to be an early demise. It's going to either be incarceration or early death or more suffering some other kind of way. You don't got to die. You could get maimed. You could get shot in the face and get blind. Hollywood's not going to show the ugly side of gangbanging. I had homeboys that ended up paralyzed from the neck down, and other homeboys didn't want to go over the house to see them laying in their bed because they're going to be bedridden until their heart stop beating. These are the ugly sides of gangbanging. I want to
add something to that. That when you say they should listen, this is what I think. Because so many of us have had the opportunity to have those youngsters' ears, and we fed them bad information. So now if you got a few wrinkles and some gray hair, you're not trusted. Listen to me as I do it. Let me show you. Because, I can tell you whatever. Let me show you that there are options, that there's more to it, that you can be more. Because a lot of young folks, they need to reach a level where they realize that their life matters. Once you start to see your life of value, you tend to move around different. And there's an understanding that needs to be shared with these youngsters. And the gang culture, period, is your life is important to everybody but you.
Yeah.
For law enforcement, your black and brown ass is commodified because a murder investigation can cost from $1 to $7 million for each one of them. You are of value. When you are arrested, you create job security for somebody, a jailer, a police, a staff in the county jail, somebody to do medical checks on you, whatever. You are of value. And what's so painfully obvious is you are important dead.
Yeah.
You are important dead. There is no part of you that is not commodified. You get shot up, you go to the hospital, job security. Something happens, you get shot up, and you just so happen to one of your parents or somebody signs the back of that organ donor card. They're going to harvest the good stuff and give it to somebody that feels like they need it and wanted to live longer. So every portion of us is commodified. So when are we going to embrace the value of who we are and move forward thinking, I'm too valuable to just give my life away in a particular manner. And when you attach that to gang culture, because the gangs are so entrenched in how we live, where we live, what we are in entertainment, they're in every aspect of our lives. Let's just admit that the gangs ain't going away. But what we can work on is, and this is from a girl, Latanya, and the homie AD, is the non-aggressive communication. There are words that are shared among us that trigger us, that make us want to hurt each other. What can we do to create a lane that when we see each other and we're from these opposing forces, that we're automatically in a space in our head where we're engaging in non-aggressive communication. Not like you being marked out, not like you being punked. If you know, if an individual looks a particular way, they got tattoos on their face that say a particular thing. If you ask me where I'm from, that is aggressive communication. I gotta tell you. Why is that necessary? So can we as a culture of pass on to our people that element right there, that energy, because that's gonna save some lives. And in saving some lives, we can get some stuff done. I mean, somebody put in there about the stuff that's that's going on and the Black Lives Matter stuff. All our lives matter, but if we don't, because we have a culture that's built in and onto us, and it's ours. If we don't step up and say that our lives matter, we cannot get mad at anybody else for not doing it. This is us. This is our responsibility. We created this culture. We fed into this culture. We put legacy into this culture. I mean, this gang shit's a grandfather. It's 50 plus. You know what I mean? It has kids, grandkids, great grandkids, the whole nine. We're entrenched, but we don't have to continue to act towards each other the way we do. And the way to start working on that is how we address each other with the power of communication. Hey, bro, how you doing? I'm on. Where are you from? I'm from LA. Right? Watch this. Aggressive communication. I didn't ask you what city you was from. I asked you where you was from. What neighborhood you live in. When you start to asking those questions, then you start to engage in that aggressive communication. We don't have to do that unless unless you're looking for it. And it's about us teaching youngsters, if they want to be taught, through example of how to live and conveying to them that their life is valuable. And if they don't think it's valuable, then you let them know. If you don't think you valuable to me. You know what I mean? Not the homie love, but because you're a contributor to the legacy of this destruction that's become glamorized, that I got love for you because I want to save you from going down the path that so many have followed and that wasn't completed because of some kind of tragic event. You deserve to live. You don't be deserving to dying at these young ages, because it takes a trigger in the maturity of us that we realize that life is important.
Mm-hmm.
When you're 15, 16, 17, 20, you might be 35. You might wake up one morning and be like, damn, I kind of like this life shit. It's kind of cool. I think I want to do a little more of this, and we have to give our, the younger generation the opportunity to do that.
But Shima, that stuff is so important. I had a homeboy years ago. He lost his mom and pops. He was walking down the street with a gun in his back pocket. I pulled up on him. What you doing? I'm finna get all these hat dancers. I'm like, no, get in the car, man. I said, I'm gonna take you home. Give me a couple days. I went to Jim. I said, Jim, I got this kid. I don't want him to see him, go backwards. I don't want to see him experience the things a lot of us, had to experience. So Jim said, what you want to do? I said, since I have to go in all these neighborhoods and I'm of a certain age, he's their age. So I need people to gravitate toward him when they feed off him. And let me tell you something. When I took that young kid off the streets and said, Jim, gonna pay him monthly, 2-3 days a week to be with me, and I go to different neighborhoods and do the work, all he gotta do is be with me. Man, that kid got his life together, got his wife, got his 4 kids. He said, Rock, you saved me, homie. I said, man, I saved myself. I said, but if we don't help and show them kind of examples and step out the box when we see a kid that's really hurting, and he feel the only way he get rid of that hurt and that pain is by knocking someone down, and we could grab him and hold him and give him something different. I mean, it's beautiful. And I've done it over and over in time. So everything you're saying is correct. If you're saying you this way, then stay that way. You know what I mean? Don't say I'm preaching over here, but behind everybody's back, I'm doing silly stuff and stupid stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the example I set is how people are going to perceive me and feed off me. And the reason why I've been out for 28 years, Tim, once I got it, once it was a struggle my first few years, but once I really got it, homie, I really believe in what I do with these kids.
Yeah.
I really believe when I see another young man who go to college because of how I open the door for him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's what gives me strength and power. When I move around with a consistency, but the same tenacity. So the same negative tenacity I had, I still have that tenacity, but it's a positive. And I put the same positive energy in everybody I try to touch because I want to see these youngsters have a better chance. I want to see these youngsters have a better opportunity. But going into the level where you're talking, they need to see that side. They need to see the politics. They need to understand the politics. And my biggest experience I had with politics when I went to Connecticut and I sat down with lobbyists. When I sat down with them lobbyists and I heard the kind of conversations they was having, I'm like, what the heck I've been doing? And that's what it's about. All this shit, man, everybody's doing something but us. And it's right there in front of us. So like I said, man, I appreciate your knowledge because I knew nothing about I could go on the jury. Every time they sent me mine, I throw it away. Or if I call them, hey, I'm an ex-con, and just hang up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
It's legal now.
Hey, y'all, I'm gonna get out of here in 19 minutes, but let me ask this question. This is for you, Big H. He said, Asiatic Supreme said, what do you think about Black Lives Matter concerns versus black on black violence in places like Chicago?
Okay. Bro, you just don't know how much I appreciate that because I was just about to ask you, can I answer that question? Now, here's, and I'm being objective. The thing with Black Lives Matter is their birth was at the initiation of law enforcement, right, lynching our folks through whatever means, right, through whether it's physical force, gunshots, tasers, pepper sprays, chokehold, whatever. All that is different forms of lynching. So Black Lives Matter has taken a political stance to fight institutional and systemic violence towards Black people. The fact that they don't find themselves protesting at all or as hard for black on black violence in cities around the country, Chicago being one of them. From their onset, it's been political. What individuals need to do who have the mindset for that, to do the work, is to align themselves with that movement, to position themselves and say, hey, I mean, this is important across the board. It's not just important because that's what's happening. It's also important is because this is happening. And now you have politically the spotlight. You have the access to funding. You have access to legislators. You have access to resources that we need. So now it's time for you to align yourselves with us. You've opened the door. Let me use an analogy that all of us understand, because some of us have been in that, in that lifestyle. Sometimes we can't get the door open because of how we look, how we move, how we dress. But we know what we want is in that building. It's in that space. So what do? We develop relationships with somebody that can get the door open, right? And then we tell them, hey, get the door open. And once you get the door open, we're going to come in behind you, right? This is one of those opportunities. The door is open, and now it's time for individuals that feel that way to walk in with them and say, hey, over here too. You know what I mean? The
Yeah, I got it.
of it is over here too. This is a united fight that is going to take all of us to win. And this cannot be a moment. We have to take all of us together. Everybody listening, everybody they talk to, and everybody that they talk to. We have to change this moment into a movement. Otherwise, you get the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, all over again. Flash in the pan, resources, help, relief, a bit of programmatic, a little policy change, but no institutional change that helps us in the long run. We need institutional change, and the only way we're going to get that is if we fight together. We can't find ourselves fighting each other. There is no space for the public battle of why you're doing and why you're not doing. That's a face-to-face conversation where nobody knows what we're talking about but us. That's our business. Everybody don't need to be in our business if it's like that. We have to present the united front because we want to get it done. There isn't a with the Black Lives Matter folk. They not saying, "Hey, we ain't messing with y'all." But do they, you know, that the concerns are there? Present the concern and see what happens. And if anybody wants some help, hey, you got my email, that tim@lavoice.org. I'm old, but I got an Instagram. I just started being on there lately. It's @T_Kornegay. Got the Facebook. You know, I'm legal. I ain't straddling, so all my stuff is associated with my whole name. I ain't hiding from nobody. I ain't doing nothing slick. All this is above the board. I'm trying to make change anyway, but they ain't gonna knock on the door and say, "Oh, but by the way, you was doing this too." No, ain't no this too for me. I'm trying to get my people free. I'm trying to create some opportunity. I'm trying to snatch some of this power off the table and spread it around to everybody that want it. I don't want no credit for it. I don't want no accolades. I don't want none of that. I want to visually witness my folks be uplifted, and that is the end all and the reward for me.
I like, you know, I'm still dwelling on the part with Black Lives Matter and how open book it is for organizations that's in the streets of anywhere but really LA. And all it takes for us as a collective to reach out to them, like, look, this is what y'all talking about. This is what we doing. You get what I'm saying? So I like that. So I didn't think of it. I didn't think of it like that. I didn't even look at it like that until you just showed it. Because to say Black Lives Matter, you have to deal with everything, not just politically and the corruption of everything, but a lot of shit going on in our community, and it still matters. Because it matters to me. So I think that's a powerful move, you know, for a lot of organizations that's listening. You know what I mean? Come together and really make a speech to them and let them know. I think they ready.
Yeah. And no matter, you know, we ready. Are we ready?
We ready. Are we ready?
Are we ready?
Yeah.
I know I'm ready.
I know I'm ready.
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
So let's do it.
You got something you want to end with, Q? So you good?
No, I just want to end by telling the youth, you know, the young gang members in the society that are able to turn the doorknob of your mother's house and walk out the front door. You might be taking that for granted right now, but if you continue down the course that you're on, I just want you to know that it's a self-destructive course. And pretty soon the power of turning a doorknob, having a door open, you know, and you walk out into the sunlight to the sound of leaves blowing in a tree, all of that will vanish. And it will be just the memory in your mind. You have the power to keep that apart, of your life until the day that you die. But if you continue down the course that you're on, I'm telling you, you're going to lose that power, and someone else is going to be turning the key inside of an iron gate. You're going to hear it clack. You're going to be on the wrong side of it. So if you don't want to listen to Big H, you don't want to listen to Rockhead, you don't want to listen to me, you don't want to listen to Kev Mac, then you better get on your knees and pray and hope some type of sound or some type of voice will come to your ear, from your ancestors and tell you to pump the brakes on the madness, because like I said, the blueprint has already been put before you. You already know what the end results are going to be. So if you hate yourself that much, then continue to go the path you're going. And all I'm doing is try to enlighten you. Big H is trying to enlighten you. Rockhead's trying to enlighten you. kevmacvideos is trying to enlighten the people. And I'm talking about all races that want to listen. So that's all I got to say.
What did Mac disappear to?
Huh?
Did he close? Are we still in there? Or did he lost whatever?
I closed.
He disappeared.
Okay, I'm gonna be quick, man. For the millennials, for all the youngsters that's out there that's protesting, that's doing what they do, the ones that want to protest, it's your time to shine. The world is yours. You have the opportunity to own a portion of it in a manner that's never happened before. Capitalize on the opportunity. Be the best you can be. Value yourself. If you don't think individuals love you, then you're wrong. I do. Crip, Blood, Kiwi, Damu, I don't give a damn where you from, who you are. You deserve the opportunity to live a full life. And if you don't think you do, then something's wrong. And that's something that needs to be fixed. And I'm willing to help you fix it if you want to. Give me a holler. I'm here.
All right, H. All right, I see you, brothers.
Right,
I see you, brothers, later. I'm proud of all you brothers, man. You endured your incarceration, and you some strong brothers. And iron sharpens iron. And I'm glad that I'm in contact with all of you out here as well as we were when we were behind that wall. So you guys keep doing positive, man. And God bless all y'all.
Be blessed. Stay healthy.
Hey, H.
Yes, sir.
Good seeing you, man. It's been a long time.
Oh, yeah. It's been a while. I'm in the field, though, man. I'm working.
That's all we can do. So we literally have so much to give. When you think of it, we've been sitting on the shelf for most of our life, and we got so much more to give, man. And that's the power of this shit right here.
It just,
what I mean? It's
all
the power.
things in time. All things in time, bro.
I know, man. Let me get back to my little one, but it's always good, man.
Take care of your family.
Oh man, take care. I heard that was your grandbaby.
Where? Nah.
In the back. Oh,
kid.
The kid. Yeah.
That's the whole son.
All right, take care of your family, man, because family is so important. I didn't realize it back then, but I realize that shit now.
Ultimately,
I got 10 grandkids, 8 grandsons, 2 granddaughters, 6 daughters, and 1 son.
Oh yeah. How many?
And man, I'm
enjoying trying to take care of all them damn family.
I'm enjoying it, man.
Oh, there you go. Do that.
That's enjoying it.
Ever.
Hey, I don't like the word papa, but I accept it.
Hey, there you go. You've lived to hear it.
Most definitely. My oldest granddaughter just turned 18. She graduated high school. She trying to convince me to fly out there to Texas. I might as well just do it.
Why not?
I'll be trying to stay off the planes right now. But I'm probably gonna go out there and see her.
Considering that's understandable.
But it's a pleasure, man.
Always, bro.
If you want my information, man.
Okay.
And on same thing, social media, Rockhead Johnson, everything. Twitter, everything. So
Definitely.
anytime you want to holler, anytime you need my support, I got you.
Oh, hey. In order to build, you got to build with. You can't build alone. None of us can do it
without a
alone.
question. That's why we part of the solution. We ain't the solution, we part of it. And only together we can make it work.
Closest to the pain, closest to the solution, bro.
Most definitely.